Welcome everyone. Today I want to talk about a topic that resonates deeply with so many of us, the inner struggles of overthinkers. It's a silent battle that takes place in the mind, often invisible to the outside world, yet it can feel overwhelming, relentless, and all-consuming. Overthinking can be a burden that weighs us down, but it doesn't have to define us. Let's explore why overthinkers suffer so much, and how we can rise above this challenge to embrace peace, clarity, purpose in life. Overthinking begins with something simple, like maybe it's a decision to be made, a past mistake, or a concern about the future. But for overthinkers, that thought doesn't just pass by us. It takes root and grows, sprouting endless what ifs and maybes, and twisting itself into every corner of the mind. It becomes a loop, a pattern of analyzing, replaying, and imagining scenarios that often never come to pass. This habit of overanalyzing may start as a desire to solve problems or prevent failure, but instead it can spiral into confusion, self-doubt, and even paralysis. One of the reasons overthinkers suffer is the immense mental energy they expend on things they can't control. The mind constantly replays conversations, decisions, and situations, seeking for a way to fix them or ensure a perfect outcome. But perfection is an illusion. Life is unpredictable, and no amount of mental gymnastics can prepare us for every possibility. When we try to control what's uncontrollable, we set ourselves up for frustration and disappointment. Overthinking becomes like running on a treadmill, expending energy but going nowhere. Overthinkers often wrestle with fear of failure, rejection, or making the wrong choice. This fear can make every decision feel monumental, every mistake catastrophic. The weight of these fears can make it hard to move forward, leading to procrastination or action. Ironically, the desire to avoid mistakes can lead to more suffering, because staying stuck in indecision can be just as painful as making the wrong choice. It's a vicious cycle that feeds on itself, leaving overthinkers exhausted and drained. Another source of suffering is the tendency to dwell on the past. Overthinkers replay past events, analyzing every word, action, and outcome, often with a critical lens. They think about what they could have done differently, what they should have said, or how they might have avoided a negative outcome. But the past is unchangeable. No amount of analysis can rewrite history. Dwelling on what's already happened only takes away from the present moment, robbing us of the opportunity to live fully and authentically. Overthinkers also struggle with the uncertainty of the future. The mind leaps ahead, imagining worst-case scenarios and preparing for every possible outcome. While planning and foresight are valuable skills, overthinking takes them to an extreme, creating stress and anxiety about things that may never happen. It's as if overthinkers carry the weight of the world on their shoulders, trying to solve problems that don't yet exist. This constant anticipation of disaster can make life feel like a never-ending storm, even when the sun is shining. But here's the thing, overthinking doesn't have to be a life sentence. It's not a flaw or weakness, it's a habit. And like any habit, it can be changed. The first step is to recognize that overthinking comes from a place of care. Overthinkers often have a deep desire to do things well, to make the right choices, and to protect themselves and others. This care is a strength, not a weakness. But it needs to be channeled in a way that serves us, not hinders us. One of the most powerful tools to combat overthinking is mindfulness. Mindfulness teaches us to focus on the present moment, to observe our thoughts without judgment, and to let them pass without getting caught in their grip. It's about learning to distinguish between thoughts that are helpful and those that are not. When we practice mindfulness, we create space between ourselves and our thoughts. We realize that we are not our thoughts, we are the observer of our thoughts. This shift in perspective can be liberating, breaking the cycle of overthinking and bringing peace to the mind. Another key to overcoming overthinking is self-compassion. Overthinkers are often their own harshest critics, holding themselves to impossibly high standards and beating themselves up for perceived failures. But self-compassion reminds us that we are human, that it's okay to make mistakes, and that we deserve kindness and understanding just as we would offer to a friend. When we treat ourselves with compassion, we create an inner environment of safety and acceptance, which helps to quiet the critical voice of overthinking. It's also important to take action even when the path forward isn't perfectly clear. Overthinking thrives on indecision. The longer we stay stuck in analysis, the more paralyzed we become. But action breaks the cycle. It doesn't have to be a big step. Even small actions can create momentum. And with each step, we gain clarity and confidence. It's proven to ourselves that we are capable of handling whatever comes our way. Learning to let go of what we can't control is another vital lesson. Life is full of uncertainties, and no amount of overthinking can eliminate them. But we can choose to focus on what we can control: our actions, our attitudes, and our responses. When we shift our focus to what's within our power, we feel more grounded and less overwhelmed. Letting go of the need for certainty and embracing the unknown can be a powerful act of courage and freedom. Overthinkers also benefit from building a support system. Sharing our thoughts and fears with trusted friends, family, or a therapist can provide perspective and relief. Sometimes just speaking our thoughts out loud helps to untangle the mental knots we've tied ourselves in. And hearing someone else's perspective can remind us that we're not alone in our struggles. Finally, it's important to cultivate gratitude and focus on the positives in our lives. Overthinking often magnifies problems and minimizes blessings. But when we take time to reflect on what's going well, what we're grateful for, and what we've accomplished, we shift our mindset from one of scarcity to one of abundance. Gratitude reminds us that life is not just about challenges, it's also about beauty, joy, and connection. To all the overthinkers out there, I want to say this: your mind is powerful. The same mind that overthinks is also capable of great creativity, insight, and problem solving. Your depth of thought is a gift, not a curse. But like any gift, it must be used wisely. Don't let your thoughts control you. Learn to control your thoughts. Trust yourself, take action, and embrace the present moment. Life is too short to spend it trapped in the endless loop of overthinking. Please set yourself free and watch as your world transforms. Overthinking often starts innocently with a single thought. Perhaps it's a decision to be made, a conversation replayed, or an imagined scenario. At first, the thought might seem manageable, a straightforward question or concern that needs addressing. But for those prone to overthinking, that thought doesn't simply pass through the mind. It lingers, grows, and invites endless possibilities, each demanding attention and analysis. What began as a fleeting consideration transforms into a mental loop, replaying over and over. As the thought expands, so does its complexity. The mind starts analyzing every angle, dissecting every detail, and imagining every possible outcome. This process can feel overwhelming as one thought branches into many, creating a web of hypothetical scenarios and questions. The search for clarity or certainty becomes more elusive, leading to frustration. Instead of finding a resolution, overthinking deepens the confusion, as if the mind is trying to untangle a knot, but only making it tighter. This mental spiraling often leads to self-doubt. The more we analyze, the more we question our choices, intentions, or abilities. What if I'm wrong, or what if I've already made a mistake becomes a constant refrain. Overthinkers tend to focus on their perceived inadequacies, magnifying small concerns into significant worries. This self-critical inner dialogue chips away at confidence, making it hard to trust decisions or take action. The result is a sense of mental exhaustion. What started as a simple thought has now consumed an inordinate amount of time and energy, leaving little room for clarity or peace. Overthinkers find themselves stuck in a loop of analysis without progress, unable to let go of thoughts that no longer serve them. It's this cycle, seemingly endless and self-perpetuating, that can make overthinking feel so suffocating and difficult to escape. Overthinking often directs our focus towards situations and outcomes that are beyond our control. The mind becomes consumed with trying to solve problems that may never arise or replaying past events in an attempt to rewrite history. This endless mental engagement creates an illusion of control, as if thinking deeply or exhaustively about an issue could somehow change the outcome. However, the truth is that many aspects of life are inherently unpredictable and unchangeable, no matter how much energy we dedicate them. The effort to control the uncontrollable drains our mental resources. Overthinkers often replay the same scenarios in their minds, searching for solutions or ways to avoid potential failures. This repetitive process requires significant cognitive energy, leaving little room for creativity, relaxation, or emotional balance. Instead of moving forward, they remain stuck in a loop, attempting to exert influence over situations they cannot affect, which only amplifies their frustration and sense of helplessness. As this mental exhaustion builds, it begins to impact other areas of life. The energy spent on overthinking could have been used productively solving problems that are within one's power to change, or focusing on present tasks and relationships. Instead, it gets wasted on hypothetical outcomes and uncontrollable factors. This imbalance leaves overthinkers feeling depleted and overwhelmed, further fueling the cycle of overthinking as they try harder to resolve the same concerns with diminishing clarity. Ultimately, overthinking becomes a self-perpetuating cycle of wasted energy. By focusing on things outside their control, overthinkers unintentionally magnify their stress and reduce their capacity to cope effectively. Breaking this cycle requires a conscious shift in focus, redirecting mental energy toward actionable steps and learning to let go of what cannot be controlled. Without this shift, overthinking continues to drain resources that could otherwise be used for growth, joy, and meaningful progress. Fear lies at the heart of much overthinking, often serving as the force that amplifies simple concerns into overwhelming mental spirals. It may start as a fear of making the wrong decision or failing to meet expectations, either our own or those of others. This fear triggers a need for certainty, pushing the mind to analyze every possible outcome in an attempt to avoid mistakes or negative consequences. However, the more we try to plan for every possibility, the more tangled our thoughts become, making clarity feel unattainable. This fear-driven overthinking often stems from a desire to protect ourselves from perceived threats. Instead of reducing anxiety, this hypervigilance amplifies it, as the mind becomes consumed with what-if scenarios that may never come to pass. The constant need to predict and prevent leaves overthinkers trapped in a loop of mental preparation for situations they might never face. Over time, this cycle of fear and overthinking erodes self-confidence. The fear of making the wrong choice leads to self-doubt, which in turn creates paralysis in decision-making. Overthinkers may second-guess their instincts, questioning whether they're equipped to handle life's uncertainties. This erosion of trust in oneself reinforces the cycle of overthinking, as fear makes every decision feel monumental and every mistake feel catastrophic, regardless of the actual stakes involved. Ultimately, fear-driven overthinking creates a state of emotional and mental exhaustion. It magnifies concerns and keeps the mind preoccupied with avoiding failure rather than embracing opportunities. Overcoming this requires a shift in perspective, acknowledging that fear is natural but doesn't have to dictate our thoughts or actions. Learning to take risks, trust oneself, and accept that not every outcome can be controlled is essential for breaking free from the grip of fear and reclaiming peace of mind. Dwelling on the past can be a significant source of suffering because it keeps our focus fixed on what has already happened, things we can no longer change. Overthinkers often replay past events, analyzing their actions, words, or decisions in exhaustive detail. They imagine alternate scenarios, wondering how different choices might have led to better outcomes. This relentless replay of what could have been creates an emotional burden as regret and guilt begin to take hold. This fixation on the past prevents individuals from being fully present in the current moment. While the mind is consumed with dissecting previous experiences, the opportunities and beauty of the present are overlooked. Instead of moving forward and growing from past experiences, overthinkers remain trapped in a loop of rumination, reliving their mistakes or missed opportunities. This lack of forward momentum compounds the emotional pain, reinforcing feelings of inadequacy or failure. Dwelling on the past also distorts reality, as the mind tends to magnify perceived mistakes or shortcomings while minimizing successes. Overthinkers often focus on the negative aspects of past events, amplifying their sense of regret or shame. They may forget that those experiences, no matter how imperfect, were part of their journey and contributed to their growth. This skewed perspective leaves them carrying unnecessary emotional weight, which can affect their confidence and overall well-being. Ultimately, living in the shadow of the past limits the ability to embrace the future. Yet the energy spent analyzing what cannot be changed could be redirected toward creating something new and meaningful. Breaking free from this pattern requires a conscious decision to accept the past for what it is, a stepping stone, not a prison. By practicing self-compassion and focusing on the lessons learned rather than the mistakes made, overthinkers can begin to release themselves from the grip of the past and move toward a brighter, freer future. Anticipating the future through the lens of worst-case scenarios can significantly heighten anxiety, as it forces the mind to dwell on negative outcomes that may never happen. Overthinkers often feel compelled to prepare for every possible setback, imagining disaster at every turn. This relentless focus on potential failures or challenges creates a constant state of unease, as the brain perceives these imagined scenarios as real threats. Instead of feeling equipped to face the future, they feel overwhelmed by the weight of their own fears. This type of thinking is rooted in a desire for control and safety. By anticipating the worst, overthinkers believe they can prepare themselves emotionally and mentally to handle any situation. However, this approach often backfires. The more they try to predict and control the future, the more they reinforce feelings of insecurity and doubt. The mind becomes consumed with hypothetical situations, leaving little room for rational thought or optimism. This over-preparation creates unnecessary stress, even in moments when there is no immediate danger. A worst-case scenario thinking also limits the ability to see opportunities and positive possibilities. When the mind is fixated on what could go wrong, it becomes blind to what could go right. Overthinkers may hesitate to take risks or embrace new experiences, fearing the imagined consequences of failure. This hesitation can prevent growth, robbing them of the chance to learn, succeed, or find joy in the unknown. By focusing so intensely on avoiding potential pitfalls, they miss out on the opportunities that arise from taking bold steps forward. Ultimately, this habit of anticipating the worst keeps individuals trapped in a cycle of anxiety and inaction. The energy spent worrying about an uncertain future can be redirected toward building resilience and embracing life's unpredictability. Accepting that uncertainty is a natural part of life, and choosing to focus on the present moment can break this cycle. By shifting attention away from imagined catastrophes and toward actionable steps, overthinkers can reduce their anxiety and approach the future with greater confidence and calm. Overthinking is often perceived as an intrinsic trait or flaw, but it is more accurately a habit and ingrained mental pattern developed over time. This means that it is not a fixed part of who we are, but a learned behavior that can be unlearned or reshaped. Like any habit, overthinking develops as a response to certain triggers such as uncertainty, stress, or fear. The mind repeatedly engages in excessive analysis because it feels like a way to solve problems or gain control, even when it ends up being counterproductive. The fact that overthinking is a habit rather than a flaw is empowering. It means that with conscious effort and practice, this mental tendency can be changed. Instead of labeling themselves as overthinkers and resigning to the belief that they are permanently this way, they can start to see overthinking as a behavior they can work on, much like replacing any other unhelpful habit. Breaking the habit of overthinking requires awareness and intentional action. The first step is noticing when overthinking begins and identifying the triggers that set it off. From there, individuals can interrupt the cycle by redirecting their thoughts or focusing on actionable steps rather than endless analysis. Practices such as mindfulness, journaling, or engaging in activities that ground them in the present moment can help rewire the brain to adopt their patterns of thinking. Each small step taken to disrupt overthinking builds confidence in the ability to manage it. Ultimately, viewing overthinking as a habit rather than a flaw shifts the perspective from one of helplessness to one of empowerment. Habits, unlike inherent traits, are changeable and within our control. With patience, practice, and persistence, it is possible to replace overthinking with more constructive ways of approaching challenges, freeing the mind from unnecessary mental clutter and creating space for clarity, peace, and growth. Mindfulness is a powerful tool for breaking the cycle of overthinking because it encourages individuals to focus on the present moment, rather than being consumed by past regrets or future worries. Overthinking thrives on mental loops that spiral out of control, but mindfulness creates a pause in this process. By bringing attention to the here and now, it interrupts the flow of overwhelming thoughts and allows a person to observe them without judgment. This shift in perspective helps to disengage from the constant chatter of the mind. Practicing mindfulness also fosters awareness of thought patterns. When overthinkers learn to recognize their mental habits, they can begin to understand how these patterns develop and why they persist. Instead of automatically reacting to thoughts or letting them spiral, mindfulness provides space to respond intentionally. This creates a sense of control as individuals realize they are not at the mercy of their thoughts but can choose how to engage with them. Over time, this awareness reduces the power that overthinking holds. Another benefit of mindfulness is its ability to ground individuals in the present. Overthinking often pulls people into the past or future, but mindfulness anchors them in what is happening right now. Some techniques like focusing on the breath, noticing physical sensations, or observing the environment help redirect attention away from hypothetical scenarios or past mistakes. This grounding practice not only calms the mind, but also cultivates a sense of peace and clarity that counteracts the stress of overthinking. Ultimately, mindfulness helps to reframe the relationship with thoughts. Instead of being caught up in a whirlwind of analysis and worry, mindfulness encourages a more compassionate and detached approach. Thoughts are seen as passing experiences rather than definitive truths that demand action or attention. This shift allows overthinkers to break free from their mental loops, fostering a greater sense of balance and well-being in daily life. By consistently practicing mindfulness, individuals can gradually weaken the grip of overthinking and embrace a calmer, more centered state of mind. Self-compassion plays a critical role in reducing overthinking by allowing individuals to approach their thoughts with kindness rather than judgment. Overthinkers often fall into harsh self-criticism, believing that their excessive analysis is a flaw or a failure. This inner criticism fuels the cycle of overthinking, making it harder to break free. When we practice self-compassion, we soften our response to our own thoughts and mistakes, recognizing that they do not define us or our worth. This shift in attitude helps reduce the mental pressure that encourages overthinking in the first place. Rather than berating oneself for feeling overwhelmed or uncertain, self-compassion invites acceptance of these feelings. It acknowledges that everyone experiences this doubt, fear, and imperfection, and that these emotions are part of being human. By offering the same understanding and support to ourselves that we would offer a friend, we ease the emotional burden that often drives overthinking. This act of kindness helps create a more supportive mental environment where thoughts can be examined more objectively and without the added weight of self-judgment. When overthinkers practice self-compassion, they also learn to let go of the unrealistic expectation of perfection. Overthinking often arises from a deep fear of making mistakes or not meeting expectations. Self-compassion allows us to accept that we are not perfect and that mistakes are an inevitable and valuable part of growth. With this acceptance, the need to overanalyze every decision or worry about every possible outcome begins to dissipate. Instead of ruminating over errors or potential failures, we can focus on learning from them and moving forward with a sense of ease. Ultimately, self-compassion breaks the pattern of overthinking by creating emotional resilience and mental clarity. By treating ourselves with kindness, we reduce the mental energy spent on self-criticism and allow space for more constructive, balanced thinking. This compassionate approach helps us to release the grip of overthinking, promoting a mindset that is calmer, more grounded, and more capable of navigating life's challenges with confidence and peace. Taking action, even in small steps, is one of the most effective ways to disrupt the cycle of overthinking. Overthinkers often get trapped in a mental loop of analyzing, doubting, and waiting for the perfect solution, which only prolongs their indecision and anxiety. However, by simply taking a small action, such as making a decision or moving forward with a minor step, they break the cycle of overanalysis. This shift from thinking to doing redirects energy away from endless speculation into tangible progress, no matter give. These small steps create momentum, which gradually builds confidence and clarity. When action is taken, it often provides the feedback needed to reassess the situation, shift the approach, or even confirm that there was no need for overthinking in the first place. The key is not to wait for everything to feel perfectly aligned, but to trust that any forward motion, no matter how modest, will provide new information and insights. This ability to act even imperfectly allows overthinkers to gain a sense of accomplishment and purpose, which counteracts feelings of helplessness. As individuals begin to take action, they also start to break free from the paralyzing fear of making mistakes. Overthinking often stems from a deep desire to avoid failure. But by taking even small steps, overthinkers realize that mistakes are a natural part of progress. With each action, the fear of making the wrong choice begins to diminish as the focus shifts to learning and adapting rather than perfect outcomes. This shift in perspective allows for more fluid decision-making, reducing the need to overthink every possibility. Ultimately, taking action helps restore a sense of control and agency. Overthinking can leave us feeling stuck and powerless. But by moving forward, no matter how small the steps, individuals reclaim their ability to shape their circumstances. The more action they take, the less time and energy they have to dwell on hypotheticals, and the more they embrace the reality that progress comes from doing rather than endlessly thinking. In this way, taking small steps becomes a powerful antidote to the debilitating cycle of overthinking. Letting go of the need to control everything is a transformative shift that can bring immense freedom and release, especially for overthinkers. Many overthinkers are driven by the belief that if they can manage every detail and anticipate every possible outcome, they can avoid negative consequences. This desire for control creates an internal pressure that drains energy and heightens anxiety, as it is nearly impossible to predict or influence every aspect of life. The constant effort to maintain control keeps the mind in a state of tension, leading to frustration and mental exhaustion. When individuals begin to release their need for control, they stop trying to micromanage every situation or protect themselves from every possible risk. Instead of focusing on what might go wrong, they shift their attention to what is within their power to change and embrace the uncertainty that life inherently brings. This surrender does not mean giving up responsibility, but rather accepting that some things are simply beyond our grasp. By letting go of this control, overthinkers can reduce unnecessary worry and allow themselves to experience life with greater ease and openness. This shift toward acceptance creates mental space for growth, creativity, and spontaneity. When the need to control everything fades, overthinkers are able to embrace opportunities and make decisions without overanalyzing every detail. They realize that some of the most fulfilling moments come from taking risks and stepping into the unknown. Instead of being paralyzed by the fear of making the wrong choice, they are empowered to act with confidence, knowing that not everything needs to be perfectly planned. This freedom allows them to approach life with a lighter heart and a more flexible mindset. Ultimately, letting go of the need for control brings a sense of peace and liberation. It breaks the cycle of overthinking by eliminating the internal struggle to predict and manage every situation. Instead of constantly seeking certainty, individuals find comfort in the unknown and the imperfect, realizing that life is full of surprises, and not every outcome can be anticipated. This freedom to let go of control allows for greater resilience, emotional balance, and the ability to move through life with a greater sense of trust in themselves and the world around them. Sharing thoughts with a support system can provide a much-needed release from the weight of overthinking. When overthinkers keep their thoughts to themselves, they can become trapped in their own minds, endlessly revisiting concerns without any external input. Expressing these thoughts to trusted friends, family members, or mentors allows them to be externalized, offering an opportunity to gain clarity. By vocalizing worries, individuals can often see the situation from a different perspective and recognize that their anxieties are not as significant or insurmountable as they initially seemed. A support system offers both emotional comfort and objective feedback. The act of sharing can lighten the emotional load, as it's easier to process difficult feelings when someone else listens and validates them. In doing so, overthinkers may find they feel less isolated in their struggles and more empowered to face challenges. Furthermore, a fresh perspective from others helps to put worries into context, offering alternative viewpoints that might not have been considered in the heat of overthinking. This can be incredibly grounding, as it allows for a clearer understanding of what is truly important versus what is being magnified in the mind. Having a trusted person to share with also creates a sense of accountability. When overthinkers express their concerns, they may be encouraged to take action or to challenge unhelpful thought patterns. Sometimes, simply talking through a problem can reveal solutions or alternatives that were previously clouded by anxiety and indecision. A support system helps individuals feel less burdened by their thoughts and provides the gentle push needed to move forward, instead of remaining stuck in a cycle of rumination. Ultimately, sharing thoughts with others fosters a sense of connection and understanding. It reminds overthinkers that they are not alone in their struggles and that everyone experiences doubt and uncertainty. The relief that comes from expressing fears and anxieties creates a sense of release, reducing the intensity of overthinking. It also cultivates a more balanced approach to problem solving, as external perspectives can help restore clarity, bringing relief and the ability to move beyond unnecessary mental chatter. Gratitude has the power to shift the focus of overthinkers from their problems to their blessings, creating a mindset that fosters positivity and contentment. When overthinking is at its peak, the mind tends to fixate on what's wrong or what could go wrong, often magnifying challenges and obstacles. This constant attention to the negative reinforces feelings of stress and helplessness. By intentionally practicing gratitude, individuals consciously choose to focus on the positive aspects of their lives, however small they may seem. This shift in focus helps counteract the overwhelming nature of overthinking and brings balance to the emotional landscape. Gratitude also helps reframe perspectives by highlighting the abundance in one's life, which often gets overlooked in the midst of worrying. When individuals take time to reflect on what they are thankful for, they begin to see the good in their lives. This practice not only reminds them of the things that are going well, but also diminishes the grip of anxiety and negative thinking. By focusing on what is working, gratitude fosters a sense of appreciation, making it harder for the mind to dwell on imagined threats or past regrets. In addition to bringing emotional relief, gratitude helps to create a more resilient mindset. Overthinkers often get caught in cycles of fear and worry, as they feel uncertain about the future or regretful about the past. Gratitude encourages individuals to acknowledge the stability and positive elements that already exist, which in turn helps to build confidence and trust in their ability to cope with challenges. Instead of becoming overwhelmed by problems, they start to recognize that they have the inner resources and external support needed to navigate life's ups and downs. Ultimately, gratitude offers a way to break free from the cycle of overthinking by redirecting attention toward the present and what is good in life. It shifts the narrative from scarcity of fear to abundance and hope. By making gratitude a regular practice, overthinkers can retrain their minds to focus more on the positives, diminishing the power of negative thoughts and fostering a greater sense of peace, joy, and resilience in the process. In conclusion, overthinking is a powerful force that can hold us captive in cycles of doubt, fear, and anxiety. However, it is not an unchangeable flaw, but a habit that can be broken with the right tools and mindset. By recognizing the impact of overthinking and taking steps to disrupt the cycle, we can begin to regain control over our thoughts and our lives. Practices like mindfulness, self-compassion, and gratitude allow us to shift our focus from the negative and the uncontrollable to the present moment and our inner strengths. Taking action, even in small steps, breaks the inertia of overthinking while sharing our thoughts with a trusted support system app. It deceives and provides the relief and perspective we often need to move forward. It's important to remember that overcoming overthinking is not an overnight process, but with consistent effort and a compassionate approach, we can break free from its grip. By allowing ourselves to be human, acknowledging our fears and doubts, and embracing the freedom that comes with letting go of the need to control everything, we can create space for peace, growth, and clarity. The key is not to be defined by our overthinking, but to take charge of our minds step by step and live with greater intention, balance, and confidence. The path may be challenging, but it is always possible to find freedom from the overwhelming weight of excessive thought, and through that freedom, a richer, more fulfilling life awaits. Thank you for taking the time to engage with this discussion. I hope the insights shared have been helpful and inspiring. Remember, progress is made one step at a time, and with the right mindset, you can break free from overthinking and embrace a calmer, more purposeful life. Goodbye for now, and take care. Wishing you peace, clarity, and growth on your journey ahead. If you ever need more guidance or support, I'm always here.